Was kind of hanging in the balance last night, but the Dolphins went into Buffalo yesterday and laid an egg. Adam Gase out after 3 years as Dolphins head coach. In his first year as Dolphins head coach, Ryan Tannehill had a very good year, got injured in December. They went to the playoffs. Matt Moore took over. They lost in Pittsburgh. Since then, Tannehill has not stayed healthy. That team has not been much, and they are right around 500. Ian Rappaport with us. Why Adam Gase and why now?
And my understanding is this is about, I know there was some conversation about what it was like in the building, and this was really about owner Stephen Ross just not thinking they won enough, thinking that with the talent they have, with the quarterback they had, who of course was in and out of the lineup, with all of that, that they should have won more games, a dissatisfaction with Adam Gase, and it really started, or at least became clear after the Vikings game. And of course, there were some ugly losses, but there were also some wins, and Gase's record in one-score games, I believe, is 20-6. That is something that is impressive. And so he leaves Miami now, which, by the way, is a new power structure. Mike Tannenbaum has been reassigned. Chris Grier, a well-respected personnel man, officially has final say in Miami. So there's a new power structure there, need a new coach, and Gase is going towards as one of the top head coaching candidates.
And that is key to point out here. Chris Grier takes over as GM. He was GM, but he gets elevated here with Mike Tannenbaum being reassigned. So Chris Grier is calling the shots. The question is, will Chris Grier be hiring the new head coach? Is this all on owner Stephen Ross? And where, Ian, do you think they go?
They're going to meet with the media in a little bit. But yes, my understanding is Chris Grier, who does have final say, is going to be extremely involved in this head coaching search. This is going to be his first. We've seen, Mike Tannenbaum and others kind of get involved in the football mix here, but so much of it now falls on Chris Grier. And as far as what kind of coach they are going to hire, at this point, it's early, so we do not know. But of course, they do need a new quarterback. I have a hard time imagining that Ryan Tannehill is back there. So whoever inherits this has really got a lot of work to do, Andrew.
Yeah, not Ryan Tannehill at that salary cap figure, considering he could not stay healthy. Last thing, Ian, of these 8 that have been moved out in the last, couple of months now, including Green Bay and Cleveland, is Adam Gase the most likely to be a head coach somewhere else next year?
I would say he is likely to be a head coach somewhere else. Yeah, I mean, and if you look at possibly where, remember, Jimmy Haslam with the Browns has loved Adam Gase for a long time, tried to hire him a couple different times in Cleveland. Gase pulled out because he wanted to be a head coach, or wanted to focus. I believe this was a Super Bowl year with the Broncos, wanted to focus on that. Peyton Manning has been in his ear singing the praises of Gase as well, so I would imagine he would get a strong look from Cleveland. That's certainly something to keep an eye on. But don't discount this one. Vance Joseph possibly in Cincinnati. Mike Brown always loves the, this is interesting. Mike Brown always loves the familiarity there, so I wouldn't be surprised if Joseph emerges. Here's one for you just quickly. Yeah. I got the Browns put in a request for Matt Eberflus, the Colts defensive coordinator, one of the hot young candidates you were going to be hearing about. And obviously, you saw last night that defense has got some game. Yeah,
a coordinator that came in under what was thought to be a Josh McDaniels administration and then a holdover, and did a great job this year with Frank Reich, helping the Colts get in the postseason. It's getting more and more interesting, guys, and more obvious why, when you look at these numbers the last 2 years, the Dolphins are moving on from Adam Gase. But again, there's a quarterback issue. Gase pointed out on the podium last week that he simply has not had a healthy quarterback, and that before he got there, Tannehill, for the most part, stayed healthy. So the Dolphins have a new GM. We're going to hear from the owner hopefully a little bit later today. Also a Cardinals press conference coming up shortly as well, where we will hear from GM Steve Keim. It's official, Arizona has fired Steve Wilks. Rhett Lewis, take it away.
Okay, thanks, Andrew. Getting back to Adam Gase and the Dolphins point, Ryan Tannehill has missed 25 of a possible 49 games as the starting quarterback during Adam Gase's tenure, including the playoff game in Gase's first year. We'll get to the new power structure there in Miami in just a second. Let's start with where you feel like it went wrong for Adam Gase in Miami, Mike.
Well, I talked to him a lot going into this, and then I've communicated with him today. He believed he was likely to get fired going into this last game. There was some talk about him giving up control of personnel, which he wasn't thrilled about. He told me today it wasn't a good fit at this point, and he said he had a good conversation with Stephen Ross and it ended on a good note. Jarvis Landry, a former player with whom Adam Gase did not get along, I saw was clowning him on Twitter. Now with the Cleveland Browns, I'm sure Jarvis will enjoy the news that Ian just reported that
he's a candidate.
that he could be a candidate. I keep saying this about other people who may play for Cleveland. It's a small league.
It is.
Listen, if I'm the Green Bay Packers, for example, and I've got Aaron Rodgers, Adam Gase has done great work with quarterbacks in the past, Peyton Manning, Tim Tebow even being productive with him, Jay Cutler. I think you'll probably see, he tried to go all in with Ryan Tannehill. I think he felt it was the right thing to do. I think
the whole organization did.
Yeah, you'll probably see the Dolphins move on from Ryan Tannehill after this season.
One thing that's interesting about this Miami team, though, is this is not a talented roster. You know, we use the term blue players, blue chip players, guys you have to game plan against offensively or defensively. And I love Minkah Fitzpatrick. I think he's going to emerge as one of those blue chip players, but they just don't have enough guys. I don't know what else Adam Gase could really have got out of this roster that he was given. I do have a lot of confidence in Chris Grier getting control over personnel going forward. I've known Chris. Chris has a great reputation in the NFL, and he's got a big challenge because you've got Sam Darnold now and Josh Allen, two young quarterbacks in the division, and Brady's not going to play forever. There's going to be a void there. Somebody's got to fill it, and he's got his hands full with this roster.
Here's the challenge. Okay, I covered the Miami Dolphins with the Miami Herald in the mid-'90s. Don Shula's last years, Jimmy Johnson's first years. They have been a mess since then. Organizationally, they've changed owners. Organizationally, they have not found out what they want to do. So Chris Grier is taking over. That's fantastic because he is going to be the only person of color in charge of personnel for an NFL team. So that's our diversity candidate
Reggie
right now.
McKenzie gone from the Raiders, Ozzie Newsome, great GM, great history,
stepping down.
down.
But we're still looking at the power structure. So Mike Tannenbaum, who everyone said, they couldn't wait to get out of there because he's kind of left this mess, he's reassigned. What does that mean? What kind of head coach are now they're going to get in there where you do have a general manager in place who gets to pick the head coach? You do have Mike Tannenbaum still. What is the structure there that's going to be appealing for disorganized franchise for years for a head coach to come in there? Sure, it's great to live there, no state income tax. But you talked about the quarterback issues there.
The other thing I would say is Stephen Ross, who's a very aggressive owner, pursued Jim Harbaugh once before.
Right.
There's some chatter about John Harbaugh. I know, Steve, you've done some reporting on this.
Yeah, so let's understand this. And I was talking to several people in the NFL hierarchy in terms of John Harbaugh. We know last week the Ravens came out and said they're working on an extension with him. He's not signed that extension. There's a lot of talk that he might not sign that extension. And teams like Miami and Tampa could be interested in finding a way to pry John Harbaugh away to come to their clubs, to come coach their clubs.
Well, look, Miami didn't have many good players. You trade draft picks to get a head coach. That's tough to sell.
That's the issue.
Dolphins looking for their first playoff win since Dave Wannstedt was the head coach and Jay Fiedler was the quarterback.
There you go.
In